You've all heard the news by now, hopefully, and if not, get ready to be hyped. We're going to be talking about Nerf Hyper today, and here's the thing, there's not a whole lot to talk about. However, we can make some deductions and some inferences based on the pictures that we've seen from the blasters so far. So to start with, 3 blasters have been announced. The first blaster is the Hyper Rush, the next blaster is the Hyper Siege, and then the last one is the Hyper Mach. And there's a lot of influence here from paintball is what it looks like. Let's start with the very first blaster that was announced. This is the Hyper Rush. So for $30, we get a 40-round pistol. The interesting thing about this is that it's single shot and spring action, so when you actually pull back on the slide, you're bringing the whole hopper with it. And just so we can kind of get an idea, this is actually the point where I think the whole thing is going to slide. 30 bucks is on the high end for a pistol, however with 40 rounds, that makes it a lot more palatable. Now it's time to talk about the Hyper Siege. This one is probably the most interesting one to me personally, and well, here's why. For about $40, you get another 10 rounds of ammo capacity. This is a pump action shotgun, and what it has is it has slam fire. And what slam fire is going to do is make this a very competitive blaster without needing batteries. This reminds me heavily of the Adventure Force Sportsman dart blaster. This was a hopper-fed, full-length dart blaster. Essentially what you have is a way to agitate the darts into place and then load them into the chamber. With the Hyper, we don't know exactly how this is going to happen, but with the slam fire capability, that's pretty interesting. That's pretty innovative. I think this is going to be a community favorite. So the last blaster that was part of all the news is the Nerf Hyper Mach. If you look at the design, it reminds me of another blaster we've recently seen, the rival Perses. Now, for good reason, this blaster is incredible. Specifically, the part I'm calling out is this thing right here, the battery tray. When it comes to the Hyper Blaster, it says it's going to take D batteries, so that kind of rules out the rechargeable battery thing for now. However, I would love to see an option where you could swap in a rechargeable battery pack so that I'm not constantly cycling out D batteries and just causing a whole lot of waste. So I'm actually excited to compare the Hyper Mach to the rival Perses because I feel like there's going to be a lot of head-to-head competitions with these. We might see that the Perses and the Mach are worlds apart in terms of performance, but that might not necessarily be a bad thing. The other big feature that you've noticed on these is that they're including a lot of tack rails, and the only accessory so far that I can tell is the pods for the ammo themselves. And if you've ever played paintball before, you know how vital these are to the actual game. And a lot of people use paintball pods already for rival-based ammo. And well, this is going to just help people out who have existing loadout, existing gear, existing vests and battle belts and all those kinds of crazy things that will allow them to jump into the games a lot more competitively and a lot faster with the Nerf Hyper line. That gets us to the dart type itself. Now this is a Hyper round. We don't know what material it's made out of. We are assuming that it's going to be different than Rival. We assume it's going to be different than Rival because of the way that they were phrasing things in terms of finding materials for the foam itself. Because Hyper rounds are about half the size of Rival, we're going to be able to see blasters that are fairly compact have an incredible amount of capacity. Another thing that I don't think gets mentioned enough is the colors on these look phenomenal. Something like a Hyper line, you want it to be energetic and exciting, and I think with the blue and neon green colors, it shows its more toy and playful side of Nerf as well, because let's face it, the whole trend of the community and the whole trend of these blasters lately, the ones that people are getting excited about, have been more focused on performance than they have toys. And that's not to say that there aren't any exceptions to that rule. I mean, we clearly see that in the Dino Squad line, which is just, so good. But we don't typically see that in these performance blasters. And to inject that personality, to inject that color, to inject that vibrancy is very exciting. We've got a long way to go before we know any more about these blasters. And well, even probably longer yet until we get our hands on them. However, I'm excited to see how this line develops. I think this is the first step into something new for Nerf. I never thought that they would tilt harder towards the competitive side than they are with Rival, but clearly here they're doing it. And the influences from paintball clearly are showing here, and it'll be interesting to see how it pays out. I'm excited about it. Are you excited about it? Please let me know in the comment section below. And that's it. That's the video here. Wanted to talk about Nerf Hyper because I am excited about it, and I hope you are excited about it too, because I think it's leading to some pretty great things. So that's it. Thank you. Talk to you later.